Is the welfare system broken?
Well, I expect both of you thought this might come up.
It will be, yeah.
Helen, is it broken? Did you break it when you...
I would say it's not working. When we were in government, we brought unemployment right down, and then we saw in the pandemic and coming out of that, economic inactivity, and particularly the situation of people claiming sickness benefits going up.
So things
Wow!
were problematic before the pandemic. I mean,
Whoa! Oh my God! There was a pandemic, and then sickness benefit payments increased. Wow! Mind blown. This woman she's putting two and two together right here. The sharpest political mind of her generation.
Did you know, during and after the Black Plague, the number of people that were alive was lower? Conspiracy theorists might try and draw a correlation between those two things. I keep an open mind.
From 2014 to 2020, for example, and the pandemic was in at least 1 year of that, the Conservatives made real-term cuts to many working-age benefits, but the number of people claiming incapacity benefit rose by hundreds of thousands. With PIP in 2013, that was a Conservative introduction, the claim was it would save lots of money. It saved a fraction of the money. The number of claimers rose.
So generally, people try and claim that cutting welfare will get people back into work, when in reality, it makes people less likely to be able to get over their incapacity and reduces the overall capability of them to get back to work. If you look at Denmark, that has a less punitive welfare system than us, their labour force participation is like 10 points higher than ours. Is theirs in the 70s, ours in the 60s. So there's no correlation between the fact that what the FT has described as one of the most punitive welfare systems in the OECD has not and never will encourage people back to work, because all it does is increase the levels of immiseration. And the fact that the current government is repeating the failed mistakes of the previous ones by thinking that you can cut your welfare system towards getting people back into work shows you that this is narrativization rather than actually using data.
From 2010, when we came into government, is that we brought unemployment right down. We clearly inherited a difficult economic situation. Unemployment came right down, and in general claiming of benefits came down. And we put in place universal credit, which is a simpler system and particularly geared up so that it would always make sense for people to work if they could. As I said, we recognise that something went wrong, and we stopped.
When she says those things in such as, well, the amount we were spending went down, yeah, it's because you cut it. The number of claimants didn't really change that much. And when it comes to unemployment, it's worth pointing out as well, unemployment only counts people who are out of work looking for work. People who are falling out of that entirely, or people who are too sick to work, or who are disabled, or who are in education, are not counted in unemployment, So a lot of the reason why unemployment is low is because there is a shift from people who are out of work looking for work to incapacity. A lot of that is due to mental health problems, probably due to all of the Conservative cutbacks, both to mental health provision, but also to general welfare and to the public realm in general. It shouldn't be surprising that when your public realm is shattered because of the austerity since 2010, that has led to material conditions worsening for most people in the country, which is not good for your mental or physical health. There's a reason why, in the wake of the austerity period, our children literally have stunted growth compared to what it was previously, and our European partners. This is not a coincidence.
What we saw specifically is an increase in people claiming sickness benefit for mental health reasons. Now, I come at this as somebody who was a campaigner on mental health before I was a member of Parliament. I campaigned very hard for more parity between physical and mental health and better health care for people with serious mental illness. And I don't for a moment question the reality, for instance, of things like the difficulties of anxiety that we know people are coming forward for sickness benefits for. But we also know that the evidence tells us many people with those kind of conditions with support can be better off in work. And the system in the last few years hasn't been achieving that. What we needed from the government, because they're now in the driving seat, is to really tackle that. And we didn't see it this last week.
And you didn't see it, obviously, when you were in power either.
As I said, those are things that we were working on, but we
right at the end, okay. But none.
It's amazing how many things they were definitely working on and going to do really, really well after 14 years of not doing any of that.
It's the DUP and the Lib Dems that blocked it, clearly.
And the ungrateful fucking British electorate for not giving us yet more fucking years in power. Outrageous.
Nonetheless, the number of people claiming ballooned, obviously, under Conservative government as well. Is the system broken, Fraser? This is something I know you've looked at a lot.
Certainly. Broken is not a strong enough word to describe it. It is a disaster. It is inflicting damage on communities. It's trapping people in poverty. It's shoveling them off to a land of worklessness where they're unlikely to ever emerge from sickness benefit. Every single day in this country, every day, 2,000 people are put on to long-term sickness benefit. And the chances of ever coming off it are depressingly low. Now, this is a system which is supposed to be there as a safety net, but instead, it's become a very cursory. If you say you're long-term sick, you're supposed to be given help. My documentary was talking to people who were in that category, and they feel that they've been given the money, but what they want to do is get back to work. It's quite a difficult journey for them. There's nobody there to support them. Quite often, when you get given your welfare check, your sickness benefit check, that's for last time.
You think there's no one there to help them? Interesting conclusion to come to, given that the people who you support, the Conservatives, were in government for 14 years, and at no point did they, I don't know, give anybody any help. Ben Sharp in chat has got an interesting stat that according to the DWP's own data, 40% of people on disability or incapacity benefits are on NHS waiting lists for treatment related to their condition. You say, oh yeah, there's no help. Yeah, because you fucked up the NHS. You supported the people who destroyed our healthcare service, leaving people on the scrap heap to die.
Absolutely. Also, yeah, his phrase, the land of worklessness, sounds like where billionaires and landlords live.
True, because yeah, remember the most economically inactive people in our society are people who rely entirely on passive income, or as we call it here in reality, income stolen from the productive.
Yeah, like you know, how a leech earns its blood. They're a parasite, is what I'm suggesting.
Can you hear from anyone else in officialdom? In the last 5 years of the Conservative government, there were 1 million people moving on to sickness benefit. Now, I once asked a bunch of economists if those 1 million people were in the economy instead, how would that look like? And the answer was that by the end of the Parliament, there'd be £30 billion more in tax revenue, £10 billion less in welfare payments, so that 40 billion is easily as much as Keir Starmer needs for defence or tax cuts. We'd have the highest.
So what do you think? What do you think of the government's plans that we heard?
Right now, the government's plans amount to penny pinching. I don't think this is welfare reform. What they've done is they've said, okay,
of course, it doesn't go far enough. Conservatism never changes. It's never going to change. They've decided the Thatcherite, Reaganite model is exactly what they need, and they're never going to change.
And exactly, and then they want to get these people into work, and they won't help them get well enough to be able to get them back into work. They won't make employers employ the disabled, either through quotas or through providing more funding for access to work, which has a year-long backlog to be able to adapt workplaces for disabled to get back into work. And they don't want to make workplaces pay enough to get people back into work, because the Tories, when they were in government, which again Fraser Nelson supported, as Ben points out in chat, were stripping away workers' rights and implementing supply-side labour market reforms that drives down wages. Benefit cuts, welfare cuts, reduces the power of bargaining of workers, because the employers in the private sector have less to compete with when there is a worse welfare system. It not only makes it worse for workers and worse for people on welfare, it reduces the incentive to get off welfare, because the work they'll be going into is also shitty paid.
Yeah.
And also bad for your mental health, which leads to this vicious cycle that we are right now, where people are signed off with mental health problems because everything in our society sucks for people who do the actual work that create the wealth of civilization.
we're spending too much money. I think the bigger problem is the lives being wasted, and there's not much chance. But we're going to take away a whole bunch of benefits, make them less generous, which will absolutely, politically, it's very difficult to get past the backbenchers. But we have not, the system I've described, the 2,000-day system, they're going to leave that for 3 years. Another 3 years. It should be abolished next month. So what needs to happen is that the so-called work capability assessment needs to go immediately, be replaced by something like occupational health assessment, something which is genuine health and support, saying you've got the luxury to deal with this in 2028, by which time we're going to have the equivalent of the working population of Birmingham more on sickness benefit, 4.1 million. There is not that luxury of time. I do believe that Liz Kendall, the Work and Pensions Secretary, she's a brave woman with the right ideas. We haven't heard them yet. I think the real Labour welfare...
Liz Kendall, member of the Social Democratic Labour Party of Great Britain and Northern Ireland land. She's a brave, what was it, brave and noble woman he described her as? Honestly, if Fraser Nelson ever described me as brave and noble, I would play Roblox the next day.
And again, if this isn't enough to prove to Labour Party supporters that the only people who love what's happening here are the most reactionary Conservatives possible, do you know who else has come out today in support of Liz Kendall? Political Currency did a press release, that is George Osborne and Ed Ball's Wankercast, saying that they think that she is trying to do her best in tough circumstances. And I am just like, these people are the first for the Tesco Gulag, literally first in the queue, Ed Balls and George Osborne.
Yeah, I'm warming up the trebuchet.
Reform plan, I hope, is yet to come.
Woman here.
I agree with Fraser. My daughter has a CSF
Oh, you're an idiot. Okay, cool.
week after a hospital did the wrong procedure on the wrong person.
Sorry, a CSF leak, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a cerebral spinal fluid leak.
Right.
So
Gosh.
she leaks fluid from the brain through her spine.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that.
So she can stand up for about, or sit up for about 10 minutes a day. That's been nearly 2 years. She's got 2 young children. She worked, she's lost her job, she's bedbound, she can't do anything. And we've been trying, and we've travelled the country to get doctors to look at how to cure her. A lot of it would be private. She's had to go on benefits.
Did you say they did surgery on the wrong person?
Yes.
How the fuck is that agreeing with Fraser Nelson?
Yeah, at no point did Fraser Nelson say, let's stop screwing up the NHS, which is patient zero for all of this. At no point did he say anything there, which the point that she's making is the correct one, which is that if we want people who are disabled to be well enough, they need to be treated by medical professionals. Again, trying to treat this as a DWP problem and not a DHSC problem is why we are completely screwing up this entire debate. Because this is a healthcare problem. It isn't a welfare system problem. Trying to say we can reform the welfare system to make disabled people better off and working, other than giving them more money, making them well enough, was also part and parcel of making sure that they have enough money to live. If we don't talk about the NHS and the healthcare sector, then this entire debate is totally pointless.
So this woman was stupid, but just in a totally different way than I thought she was. Because
at least
she doesn't understand what Fraser Nelson said, clearly, because Fraser Nelson was basically saying your daughter should have to piss in a bottle for Jeff Bezos.
Look, at the end of the day, at least she's recognised that the issue here is trying to get health treatment. But again, because the media and the people who we've got on to talk about this have framed this all in the context of welfare rather than the context of healthcare, that's all her brain can come to, even though she intuitively understands, as most of us here in normal people land do, that this is a health issue and not a welfare issue.
Wow.
So what's your response to what you've heard about the government's
If the system
welfare
worked together,
changes?
you're saying about all these people being on sickness benefit, a lot of them are on benefit because they're waiting for treatment.
Right.
My daughter belongs to a group, there's thousands, mostly women, because they have epidurals that cause CSF leaks. And they're bedbound, and they've got babies and young children, and
Right.
nobody is helping them. They end up on benefits, it's not their fault.
Okay. The woman at the very back in the green top. Let's get a microphone to you.
You've got to remember that there are real people behind these statistics. All I hear you talking about is statistics. What about the people? So previous benefit cuts for disability have been linked to over 500 deaths. Some of this suicides, people starving. So how confident is the panel that this isn't going to happen again?
And can I ask you?
I know Fraser Nelson's sure it's going to happen again, but he wants that.
He's sitting in the corner fucking jacking off about thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you think the size of the welfare bill needs to be reduced at all, or are you happy to see it grow because you think this is the money that people need?
I think we need to look at, there certainly needs to be looked at, but you've got to look at...
So the woman's point was we are looking at this as numbers rather than human beings. And your response is, does the number of the welfare bill have to go down or up? That's literally your response to that, proving her fucking point.
Who is being affected? The most vulnerable people. It feels to me this government, and I was a Labour voter, I'm not going to be anymore.
Good.
Because it seems that you're actually betraying the people that are voting for you, the ordinary people that need your help. There are other ways why don't we start taxing more the rich? The wealthy people that can afford it. You're taking money from people that just don't have anything.
Okay, Steve?
True.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of sympathy with what people have said, and this lady
you don't,
here
though.
talking about...
No, exactly. Don't fucking lie to me, you prick. You don't.
the fact that people can't get a hospital appointment and that's why they're stuck on benefits. Absolutely right, when we've got record waiting lists, can take 18 months or longer. So we've invested already £26 billion and the waiting lists are coming down. 2,000 more appointments already since the government was elected. But looking more squarely at the benefit system, the welfare system, it's broken. And it's broken because it is failing those very people it is supposed to be helping. Look, we've got 1 in 10 adults of working age in this country who are on health or disability benefits. 1 in 10. And most damaging of all, 1 in 8 young people, that's 1 million young people in total, 1 in 8 young people are on benefits. They're not earning or in training or learning. And yet we know that if a young person doesn't get into employment or training by the time they're in their early 20s, they may never work in their entire life. They are written off. They have no chance
How
in
will
the future.
the changes that we've heard about, and I appreciate we're going to hear more next week, but how will the changes now so far change that? Is it simply because these young people, for example, aren't going to get the money, so therefore they'll just have to go into the workforce, whether they've got support or not? How are you going to change that?
They need more support.
That's not going to happen, though. They'll just end up fucking sponging off their parents. They'll just be living at home, being even more of a burden to other people who will then not be able to be as productive themselves, you know? Again, say you want to give them support, I'm all for it. Say you want to give people the right to engage in the workforce and not fear losing their disability should they find that work is incapable for them and have to go through reassessment. By all means do that. These are fine parts of the Green Paper. But as you just say, but also we're taking away all of your income support because we feel like we want to force you into work you may or may not be able to do. It's cruel. That's all it is. It is absolutely cruel. And it's bad for the macroeconomy as well.
But it's a moral crusade, you understand?
Have to reform the system to make it work better to people, to give them appropriate support. We can give better support for those who can't work if we can get those who can work into work. Now, some of those people will need support to get there. So what Liz Kendall announced in the House of Commons earlier this week is £1 billion extra funding to support people who can work, to get off benefits and get into work. That can be giving them additional support and training. It may be working with employers to make adaptations to allow people to work. The right to try, very important as well, because a lot of people on benefits are afraid to go into work in case it doesn't work out. A lot of conditions aren't fixed, they fluctuate. You go into work, then you have to go back to square one again and you lose all your benefits. So the right to try, and if it doesn't work out, you can go back, gives people the confidence to then get into work. And I think it's really important that work is not a bad thing. Work is what gives you self-respect, it's what gives you dignity, it's what helps you meet.
Well, no, it can help at those things, but it's not the thing that gives you dignity. It's not the thing that gives you dignity. What the fuck is this Victorian bullshit?
Arbeit macht frei, of course.
It really is.
Work does set you free, but that's the thing, of course, is that anything that you do where you try and help people is entirely scuppered by the fact that we're having a big discussion here around people who are out of work, yet the biggest cuts in welfare from these reforms are going to a benefit, PIP, that doesn't have a work requirement. It's nothing to do with being in or out of work. This is to do with helping the disabled deal with conditions that increase their overall costs out of no fault of their own. And that's what's being slashed. These are the people who are now going to be less likely to stay in the workforce because they find it harder to cope with a disability because they might be getting, £9,000 a year less in the support that they need to maintain access to a decent standard of living.
Meet your full potential as a human being. It helps you support your family, and disabled people deserve that right just as much as everybody else. But for those who cannot work, they deserve far better support than they've had so far. When making this reform, that is how we can ensure that.
So you're shaking your head at that. What is it you don't like about what
Because he says about people, not working, they're on sickness, they need to be helped to get back into work. Yeah. It's not just about coaching somebody back into work, which is also going to cost you a lot of money. Yeah. So I don't know where that's coming from. People need to have surgeries. There need to be doctors who are going to do these surgeries or see people and get it done. My daughter does not want to lay in her bed.
I hate to defend the Labour government, but this is the if you're going to get mad at the healthcare sector, like Jeremy Hunt and George Osborne are right there. They're patient zero for this problem. Plenty of bad things the Labour Party are doing, but at the very least, the waiting lists are coming down incredibly slowly, but at least slowly,
And Lansley, let's not forget that prick.
True. Lansley too, and obviously Steve Barclay was the one who let the waiting lists balloon by refusing to negotiate with striking medical professionals. You know, like if there's one thing that you should definitely be at least giving Labour the benefit of the doubt on until they've been in power for a while, it's the mess of the NHS that they've inherited. Right? I don't like their plans, I don't like the privatisation, and I think that they're not doing enough to tax the rich to properly increase NHS inventory or breaking the fiscal rules for more capital spending. You know, plenty of misgivings with Labour's plan to fix the NHS, but the current broken state of the NHS is not Labour's fault. That is the Conservatives' fault.
Just rotting away and causing other problems, more long-term.
And again, I don't want to let people escape. It's also the Lib Dems.
True, they're Lib Dem accomplices. They're the actual Tory enablers.
Yes.
And you're just talking about, where's this extra money coming from, these people that are going to find these magic jobs and make the adaptations, which didn't happen for me.
No.
It was horrendous.
We have put the extra 26 billion into the health service to get those waiting lists down and get people like your
Can't
daughter...
even find a doctor to
get
do
them
it.
and to provide more doctors and GPs and get
There's
the
nobody
operations
specialised
those people
in
need.
her
And
condition.
it's worth investing
And
$1 billion
again-
more in getting people into work.
And again, it's fine to be angry that there aren't the specialists necessary in these conditions to fix the problem. But I will point out again, the biggest brain drain that we had of medical professionals was because of shitty pay in the NHS, because of the fact that the previous Conservative government weren't negotiating with doctors. They were fucking off to Australia. Again, you can poke holes in Labour strategy all you want, but you didn't get seen under a Tory government because of Tory approaches to the NHS and because of the fact that they refused to negotiate. At the very least, Labour came into government and struck a deal, not a great deal, but at least a deal to stop those strikes.
Yeah.
Because over the long term, it reduces the cost of the benefits they would be getting.
We'll
But
see.
even if we had unlimited money, this is the right thing to do,
We'll
because
see.
you cannot write off a generation. You cannot write off
you
running
have.
at
But
young people.
Problem with your
who
reforms,
spend
Steve,
their
just
life on benefits.
they
and out of
won't
work.
really achieve that. I mean, one of the things that was missing from the reforms this last week was how many people are actually going to be helped by this, and because well, I was hoping, and we'd had all the trails coming up to it, they were going to have some really bold reforms from you guys, because it's so important. I really want you guys in government to succeed at that, and you didn't come up with anything really
Helen,
substantial.
that the OBR are going to come up with those figures next week for the spring statement. But you're saying we should have done something different or gone further. You had 14 years and you did nothing. We inherited this mess from you. Those people's lives are written off the
Kids. You're both awful, right? You both fucking suck. The current government, in their plans, are taking $5 billion away explicitly from the sick and disabled. And your response and first of all, the previous plans were so dog shit that the consultation that you tried to put out was found to be illegal under judicial review because you lied to the people who you were consulting that it was to do with the welfare of the disabled and not penny pinching, which is what it was found to be penny pinching. And then the plans that you were going to put in place anyway were £12 billion of cuts rather than £5 billion of cuts. You know, you can't come here and say that you wanted there to be bolder reforms. When you mean bold, you mean more fucking democide, you know? You're both awful. You're both monsters. You both suck.
You don't need to argue over which one of you is the biggest piece of vermin. You're both atrocious scum.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of you are monsters.
Because of the Conservative Party.
no, that's
we
true.
are fixing the mess that you left us with.
I do agree with that point, though. I do wish that you were more bold. And I do understand cutting welfare is a hard subject for the Labour Party. And you're coming to government and all these numbers went up during COVID and didn't go down again, and maybe you have to do something about it. But nonetheless, I think Labour's been hamstrung by its own fiscal rules around debt, around not raising taxes on working people. And I wish you were more radical. The NHS is broken and school funding is broken and the courts are broken and transport is broken and Thames Water is broken. And I wish... Who here with a show of hands wishes the government was more radical than it is at the moment? Which is basically everybody.
Yeah, this is Reading as well. It's not like if a revolution happened, this would be the last place it would reach.
Literally, absolutely. They'll be the last fucking holdouts. You know, just every single time we say, I wish the government was more radical, and it's like, here's a radical option, it's communism. Oh, just frightening.
The Labour Party should be saying, we're going to cut the cost of this by moving people from benefits back into work. But what we've had this week, but what you've said, you've given us how much money you're going to save, £5 billion, taking all the money from benefits. You haven't given any indication of how many people you expect to move back into work, or even if you expect this number to go up or to go down. We
You're
don't
going to
even
get
know
that from the OBR next week.
Well, no, but you managed to get the
That's
money.
the
I don't know
normal
why
way
you
it's
didn't manage
done.
to get the. You could have
It's a
done
big
both.
announcement.
Well, because
you
we
could
have to
have the
get
numbers.
the OBR to sign it off for the spring
You
statement.
got,
But it won't be
they
there.
had to
It'll be
sign off
there.
the
You'll
money
see it
too.
next
I'm
week.
just saying this is the missing part of the argument. It's the human aspect of this. You're very big on the money. You're very big in the savings. You're not so big on the actual people. And that's where Labour of all parties should
But
be.
it's
majoring.
all about
Well-
people. It's all about giving people the
Okay.
chance to
But
live a life.
what
We
you're
will-
actually
hang on.
doing is
Dignity.
you're achieving frightening people. I mean, I'm hearing from disabled people from my constituents, for instance, as well as disability groups, saying how
Fuck
frightened
off.
they are.
Fuck right off. Don't you dare. Don't you fucking dare, as a Tory shadow minister, feign concern over the interests of the disabled. They wanted to do more than double the number of cutbacks. The Conservatives violated the human rights of disabled. 330,000 excess
But
deaths.
only in limited and specific ways. So it's fine.
It's incredible, absolutely incredible for any one of these Tory slugs to come out here and try and feign concern for the disabled. Like, I should be angry. I'm just kind of speechless.
Yeah, no, it is gross. It is extremely gross. And the Conservative Party with red rosettes can't say anything in return because they're literally just doing the same fucking thing.
Yeah, there's no alternative.
Yeah.
About what you're doing, yet you're also not actually making the scale of savings that the country needs and getting enough people who are going to be off benefits
Oh,
and
okay,
into
fair
work
enough.
who
People
can
who
work.
want
And I
to
say
work
to
to
the
get
lady
them
over
to
here,
lightening them
I
hand.
completely understand that there are people who really want to work, but because of their disabilities, actually it's incredibly hard and it's not something they can do at the moment. What they want is to find a way to do it. That's what the government needs to be doing, and I
Okay.
just didn't hear it from you this
All
week.
right.
Shouldn't have fucked the
Since
healthcare
There's going to be more
service.
detail about this next.
Yeah, you really oughtn't to fuck the entire country. Would have
Yeah,
been good.
maybe don't have the longest sustained reduction in healthcare spending as a percentage of GDP from 2010 until 2019. You did that. That woman who you are trying to empathise with in the front row of the audience has a daughter whose life is completely fucked up because of choices you made when you were in government on NHS spending. That's you. You did that. How dare you? How honestly dare you try and pretend to be empathetic to the people who your governments destroyed the lives of directly, maliciously.
Honestly, the question arises in my head. I don't know how these people can show their face in public, but if they were capable of shame, they'd have never joined the Conservative Party in the first place.
Very, very true. An excellent point, well made. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.